This is Tristan with Lawson's Car Reviews, and today I've got for you a 2024 Chevy Traverse. It's a 3-row SUV, so we're going to take a look at it. It's bigger than like the Trailblazer and the Equinox and stuff like that, so if you've got more than 3 kids, 4 kids, and you want more room to put them in the back, let's go ahead and take a look at this, because this might be a good option for you. Let's go. What's good, YouTube? This hood is really light. Giddy up! So, first of all, let me just make mention that this is a base model Chevy Traverse. So it doesn't have all of the bells and whistles like some of them would have. So if you're not particularly a fan of how this one looks, because it's a little bit blend, they do make some really nice ones that have got 20-inch wheels instead of the 18-inch wheels, and they've got like way nicer colors in different packages. This one is not bad, especially for a base, but I'm just letting you know that ahead of time, in case you look and you're comparing it to other stuff and you feel like it's doesn't look as good. But in general, like I said, it is a decent looking car, but there are much nicer models out here. So I mean, this looks decent. I mean, I like how it's got the daytime running lights, and it's also got the fog lights down here, and I quite like the chrome around the grille. I always say this, and I've got a Chevy Camaro myself, I blacked out the gold bow tie. I feel like this is so old school looking. Some of you might like it, but from a personal standpoint, I much prefer that it is black. It'd give it a sharper look. And then I am kind of a fan of this matte black. It does look like it would scratch a bit, but I think it would look better than what a gloss black look would look around here. And then you've kind of got these fake vents, but you've got nice little fog lights down here. And I love these daytime running lights, how they kind of just swoop up into the corner. And then obviously you've got your brights and everything, but it's completely, you know, they've gotten rid of the old school halogen bulbs. But if you take a look down the side of the vehicle, and this is a all-wheel drive equipped vehicle too, you've got these, I'm not crazy about the wheels, I feel like they're kind of basic, but comes with these 255s 65 R18s, so it's only an 18-inch rim, basic alloys, but you can, and I'll put a picture up on the screen just to show you what the nicer wheel package looks like, because the ones with the nicer wheels are actually quite impressive. Overall length of the vehicle is very long. I actually have this as a rental because somebody hit my Acura MDX, so I have this until they fix the back of it, and they're similar size. This is actually more like the size of the minivan, except instead of having the sliding doors, you've got regular opening doors. And my wife wanted to get out of that minivan life, which I totally understand. We'd had it for 7 or 8 years. If you see in the wing mirrors, you've got turn signals built into the wing mirrors, which is nice. And you also get the blind spot detector up here. You've got a nice class Chevy Traverse emblem along here. And I don't know, I've kind of got mixed feelings about this along the side, because it looks nasty when it gets dirty, and I don't know, it kind of gives the car a bit of a grimy look, but it's not terrible, but it's just not my favorite. On this model, which on some models you can get this where it's blacked out around the window seals, but it looks pretty decent. It makes the car not look, it breaks up the color, so it's not just all blue. This particular one, it's got remote start and a power lift gate, so if you double tap this, the back of the lift gate will lift up and it opens up to an ample size trunk, which if you look, even with the 3rd row of seats up, the trunk size is actually pretty big. And even underneath that, you've got a very deep pocket where more groceries can be stored. So I actually feel like you don't even need to put that third row of seats down in order for you to store, get more storage in the back of this Traverse. Then I'll put the trunk size and everything on the screen for when the seats are like this. But if you actually pull this, the seats should fold down, and it should then, you know, open up to be a third row. So they haven't folded down all the way just because my kid's seat is here. So if you pull this handle, it will slide forward, which will allow the rest of the seat to drop all the way down. So that's what it's going to look like. I'm not going to do it on the other side just because the baby seat is over that way, but it gives you a ton of room. So if you need to move larger items, then you can definitely do that in this car. The main difference between this and say the minivan, so we had the Town and Country before we got the Acura MDX. The main difference is the seats don't completely stow away all the way down, but you should definitely be aware of that before you buy one of these. So is the LT trim with the all-wheel drive package, and then the good thing about this is you can actually switch the car from all-wheel drive all the way back to two-wheel drive when you want to. As you can see along the top, you do have a roof rack for extra stuff to put up here if you're going on a trip, and then you've got that shark fin antenna along the top. So overall, look at the vehicle, I don't mind at all. It just takes regular gas, 87, so it doesn't take Prima or anything like that. So you definitely are not going to do too bad on the gas side. If you look in the back of the car, and there's my kid's school bag. And by the way, just in comparison to our MDX, this has got way more legroom. The MDX is a very tight squeeze when it comes to fitting the baby seat in there, and it's a tight squeeze when other kids are actually sitting in the back. So if you look back here, there's plenty of room in that back seat. Even if you slide this middle one back, these captain's chairs, and you take a look, there's still a decent amount of room behind for them to sit, and there's lots of room in the middle for people to pass through. These cloth seats, they are very hard wearing, and I do believe from the way that they feel that they would actually last a long time. However, they don't feel like they're the best, most comfortable seat. And this, once again, is a bit too thin. I wish the armrests were a little bit thicker so that it could be a bit more comfortable for people sitting in the middle there. But in the back, you've got two USB ports here, and then they have their own AC things for the back to control. So it probably comes out of these vents here and that one over there, and then there's also some vents at the back here, and then you've got these tiny little pockets at the back of the seats. But as far as the back goes, it's fairly basic. Let me show you one other thing which is pretty interesting, is all the way in the back on the third row, you do also have a USB port to charge your phone on either side of the vehicle. The door pockets are decently sized. You can definitely fit one of those big Coke drinks, or you know, like a large Red Bull in this pocket here. Decent amount of room here. You've got this little bit here to stick some change, and then you've got another little pocket here. I feel like if you hit the brakes, things would slide out of this pocket possibly, but I'm not going to do that, so you know, I won't be able to find out. Once again, I said these seats are hard wearing, but look how easy they are to stain. This is a 2024 and it's already got stains on it. I understand that it's a rental, but it seems like it would be fairly easy to clean as well. But I would definitely go ahead and get the leather seats, because the leather seats definitely makes the interior of this car look a lot nicer, in my opinion. But this is a look of the screen and the steering wheel, which is not bad. The glove compartment is definitely a lot bigger than the glove compartment in my Acura MDX. And then you've also got some additional storage down here along the side of the center console. Let's go ahead and take a look at the driver's side. So when it comes to the driver's side of the vehicle, it's very plain, very basic. There's no seal plate here like some cars have that says Traverse or anything like that. Basic floor mats, regular pedals. They're not metal or aluminium pedals or anything. Light controls are right here, so you can have it on auto or you can manually turn the lights on. The door is exactly the same on the driver's side as it is the passenger side, except you can control how much the lift gate goes up. So you can actually turn the lift gate off, or you can make it just go up 3/4, or you can make it go all the way up, which you might need if you're a taller person like me. On these window switches, I like them. However, it's only auto down and auto up for the driver. On the passenger side, you can go auto down, but it's manual up, and likewise it's auto down but manual up for the back. And I really hate cars that do that. I just want all cars to go auto up and auto down on all the windows. I understand that it might be a safety feature, but on my Volkswagen it's auto up and auto down, and likewise on our Acura. I do actually like the look of the interior and the steering wheel though. Like I said, minus the seats being the cloth seats, the rest of the interior actually looks pretty decent to me. Okay, so starting off with the steering wheel, it is a nice thickness. It's got good 10 and 2 notches. Once again, I'm not a huge fan of the gold emblem. You can get a little sticker kit and black that out yourself, but on some of the models you can choose to have a black emblem as well. So I think you do get the option. Underneath the steering wheel, you can move the steering wheel up and down, and it is telescopic, so it does go forward and it does go back. So there's plenty of adjustability for the steering wheel. The gauges, I'm not crazy about them. They kind of have done a little bit of a lazy job when it comes to how these look. I feel like they're outdated and they could definitely do a better job on the gauges. That's all I'll say about that, but I do like the chrome that goes around the edge of all of the gauges. I think that that is a nice feature. On the interior, this is hard plastic, but it seems like it's hard wearing and it won't scratch too much. That's usually the downfall of a lot of vehicles, is this centerpiece. What material do you want to use? If you use gloss black, it's going to put fingerprints everywhere, and if you use some cheap plastic, it's going to get scratched. So it's kind of a lose-lose a lot of the time, but this honestly isn't too bad. This also has a wireless charging pad that you've got down here, and then you've got an auxiliary port, 2 USBs, and then you've got a 12-volt outlet here as well. So there's some decent features. Car also comes with dual climate control, and then you've got heated seats on each side, which is nice. You know, all of the AC stuff. Car does have a decent radio. It's got Apple, Android, and it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, both the wireless versions, so you don't have to plug your phone in every single time. And there's even this cool little feature where when you press this button down here, boop, a secret compartment opens up for more storage, and that is a decent amount of room. So, you know, you can stick some extra things here if you don't have enough room in the glove compartment. So press it again, goes back down and hides that section, which is awesome. And I think that the screen is actually a really nice screen on this car too. And let me go ahead and show you. The backup camera is actually quite impressive. You put it in reverse, the resolution on the backup camera is nice, and when you turn the steering wheel, the lines move to show you exactly, you know, the trajectory that your car is taking. So I do like that feature as well. Everything is quite zoomed out, but it seems like it's very clear. I believe the camera on this is clearer than the camera on our Acura. So the roof liner doesn't feel that nice, kind of cheap roof liner. And these visors also feel a little bit cheapy. They do swing out and they do extend if you want to get some extra sun block in. So, and that's easy to do. Up here, you've got all of your OnStar and stuff like that. And then you've got 1, 2, 3 different buttons for garage door openers. My wife and I both agree that this is way too small. They could have made it bigger for more visibility, but also on top of that, I feel like they needed to have a rimless one because it just looks a little bit nicer. The materials on the dash are still hard plastic, but it looks decent. I really don't have that much of an issue with how this stuff looks on, you know, inside the car. It's decent looking when it comes to the design of the interior, in my opinion. Let me make one other mention before we go under the hood. These things here that keep the door open or, you know, closed, they are very weak. On some cars, there's a very definitive click for each stage of the car opening and closing. This is not. So we live on a slight hill like this. So anytime the car door is open and there's the smallest amount of wind, and this usually happens on older cars once this loses its rigidity a little bit, but this will really close on you really hard. So I actually hate the doors. They feel very flimsy and very cheap when it comes to that. And remember, this is a 2024, so I'm assuming that they're all made like this. Even this being a rental, it couldn't have been rented out that long because, you know, it's basically a brand new vehicle. So that is a huge negative when it comes to quality. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look under the hood. Good thing about this is it does come with hood struts, so you don't have to jack around with using the prop rod or anything like that. But it has this very potent V6 engine in it, and it's actually sloped at a very weird angle. I've never looked under the hood of one of these before, but if you look, you can see that it is slanted forward. I don't know if the actual engine itself is slanted like that or if it's just the engine cover that covers it that way, but anyway, what are we dealing with here? So we got the 3.6 liter V6 engine, which Chevrolet actually uses in many different vehicles. They also use it in like Cadillac, and I think they even use it in some of the Buicks. But I quite love this engine. My Camaro has a 3.6 liter engine that makes 335 horsepower. This one, obviously it's not going to be tuned the same as if it was in the Camaro, but this makes 310 horsepower, 266 pound-feet of torque. It actually is, it's not that fast off the line, but you wouldn't expect it to be because it's heavy. But once it gets going, it actually picks up really nice. It does 0 to 60, I believe, in 6.8 seconds. It does the quarter mile in 15.1, which is not bad for a vehicle of this size. Gas mileage ranges between 18 in the city and 27 on the highway, depending on if it's two-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And then it can pull a maximum, if you've got the tow package, of 5,000 pounds. The vehicle weighs about 4,300 pounds. So really it doesn't even weigh that much more than something like a Dodge Charger. And then on top of that, it also, base price is around $34,500. That's what it says online. Honestly, I found these to be closer to 38 to 40 for the base price, and then the nicer trims go a lot higher than that. But overall, I'm gonna say this engine is pretty decent. It's very comparable to my Acura that has 290 horsepower, and it has about the same pound-feet of torque. I think it's got one more pound-feet of torque, 267. So this is very similar. Once this gets moving, and the engine sounds decent. The Acura engine does sound better, but this one does not sound bad by any means. Once again, you are looking at the 2024 Chevy Traverse LT trim. Let's go for a ride. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like because it helps the channel to grow. On with the video. Go ahead and take this thing for a spin. I'm going to take it on some country roads. It is not the first time, obviously, that I'm driving this vehicle since we've had it for 3 days already. But I will say that the seats are not as comfortable as the Acura seats. They're not as premium, you know, but they're not uncomfortable. They're decent. They are decent seats. But the way the car drives. So, first of all, it's smooth. It has a lot of road noise. And I'm going to keep comparing it to the Acura because in this segment of vehicles, there's only so many that have a actual third row seat that's usable. For example, we went to look at the Mitsubishi Outlander. It proclaimed that it was a third row, and you literally couldn't fit anything back there. A real human being couldn't fit back there. I expect that when you're talking about a Mustang or Camaro, but when you're actually talking about a small SUV, I expect the third row to actually be usable. It was not usable in that Outlander. In this vehicle, it totally is usable. So that's why I'm just comparing the Acura versus this, versus maybe like the GMC Acadia, which technically is the same vehicle as this, just on a different shell. So, but yeah, this is smooth. There is a lot of road noise, whereas the Acura is quiet. And the engine has a good sound to it when you punch it. Hear that? Got a good sound, but the Acura has a better sound, and they are similar prices, but I think the one that we went with, which was the MDX, is a little bit nicer. But if you need more room, if you need more storage space, for instance, let's say you've got 4 young kids, then this is a better pick. The reason why we picked the MDX is because one of our kids is driving already, and the other kid is getting ready to start driving at the end of this year. But if you've got 4 small kids and they're going to be riding with you in the vehicle for a lot longer, many more years, this is a better pick because there's way more trunk room, which is awesome. I love how high the lift gate lifts up. That's good. There's extra trunk room under that little shelf, and then the seats fold down and you've got even more room. But then on top of that, it's got way more room in the back for the kids to sit and to grow, and they'll still have leg room. So that's where the Acura falls down in comparison to this. But it drives smooth. Like I said, we're not on the highway. I'm only going about 40 miles an hour, and I feel like I can hear quite a bit of road noise. Also, I'm on this bend, and the vehicle in general has got quite a bit of lean to it. Whereas the Acura, with the super handling all-wheel drive package, which is the one that we've got, it's got the technology package, it's a lot more flat in the corners. It's by no means a sports car, I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is it is a bit more confidence inspiring when you're on these turns. When I'm on these back roads, because I'm used to doing it in the Acura, it's way more stable, whereas in this car you totally feel the difference. The cars in general weigh the same, but the way they handle is definitely not the same. The other thing that I want to bring up that I've not had a chance to show you since I've been driving are the brakes. So the brakes have got an extremely squishy feel to it, and you feel like you don't really get any bite unless you press really hard down on it. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Oh, yeah, but that's a rental car. The brakes are probably worn out. No, no, no. Even if that's the case, that's a problem. You know why? Because this is a 2024 and the brakes should not be worn out when we're only literally in April, the beginning of April of 24. So even if this was a 24 model that was purchased at the middle or the end of 23, you know, you should have a few years before you've got to change the brake pads yet, or before they feel so squishy. So that is definitely a huge negative. I mean, I don't like using brakes on a vehicle that feels like you've got to really slam down on them for the vehicle to stop. That's crazy. So that is another negative thing. And because we went straight from our Acura into this, you can really, really, really feel the difference in braking power. And and the bite. The other thing, which it may be an option that I didn't find, but we're able to change in the Acura the driving modes. So for instance, you can have it in normal, comfort and sport. They do actually do different things. So when you're in sport, it keeps the revs higher and it lets you rev the car out a little bit more, but it also makes the steering wheel feeling lighter or heavier. If you're in comfort, the steering wheel's really light. If you're in normal, it gets a bit heavier, and if you're in sport, it's a lot heavier. In this vehicle, and there may be a different model where you can change it, I didn't see a way to change the steering feel. So this steering feel, it's decent. You don't really get much feedback from what the wheels are doing, which is fine, because once again, it's not a sports car. However, the one thing I don't like is the steering feels like it's a little bit too light, which, you know, it makes the car feel like it's darting around a little bit too much. I know that if you get the higher trim car, you can get heated and cooled seats, whereas this just has heated seats, which is a standard feature. And I believe you can also get one where it's got a heated steering wheel, which would be nice, especially in wintertime. We're in summer now, but in wintertime, a heated steering wheel would be a lovely, lovely feature. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah. That's 60. Easy. 70, 80, slowing down. So the engine sounds good. It's got good power. The wheels don't really spin. You can get them to spin, then traction control kicks on. But if you're in all-wheel drive mode, it really takes off without any fuss whatsoever. So I do love the power of the engine. It's not super torquey with only 266 pound-feet of torque, but this is a family vehicle. You don't need that much torque. Let's just be honest there. You know, it's one step under a minivan, or we could consider it a minivan without sliding doors that looks a lot nicer. But once again, now that we're at higher speeds, we're going 60 miles an hour, I can hear a lot more of the wind noise, and it's not even that windy outside. Whereas in the MDX, it's like you're in this bubble of silence. So it does make a big difference when it comes to that level of comfort. You know, Acura is a kind of the luxury brand of Honda, so you expect it to have some of those features that stand out a bit more when it comes to overall comfort and overall luxury. But this is not a bad vehicle. I'm just naming some of the bad things so that you can know before and ahead of time, so that you're not surprised if you go and buy one that there's more wind noise, or that the doors, you know, don't have a nice lock to each stage of opening. There is also a manual mode with a button on the side of the shifter here, where you can shift through the gears, or if you was on a hill or coming down a hill and you needed to stay in a low gear, that's what you can use that shifter for. Like if you're traveling up Pikes Peak in Colorado, that's what that kind of thing would be useful for. You do have very big cup holders for the drinks, which is a nice feature as well. Like I said, I do really like that it's got the wireless charging pad down here. And my seating position is actually quite comfortable. I've got plenty of leg room. You can move the seat up and down. It's like a 8-way power seat on the driver's side. So yeah, it does have some nice features, including the blind spot monitoring and all of that good stuff. So overall, I think that this is a decent buy, especially for the type of price that you can get it for. These third row SUVs really, in general, are not that cheap, but this is one of the cheaper ones that you can get in the base model. And if you like this vehicle but you want one that just seems a bit nicer, a bit more cool looking, nicer wheels, all of that stuff, you can get the higher trim. I don't know what that one's called, but usually in the Chevy playbook, the LTZ would be the one that would be the loaded model. It might be different in this Traverse, but I'm just telling you off the top of my head what it probably is. So if you have one of these, let me know some of the regular problems that you have with it. If you love it, let me know if you hate it. Tell me all the good stuff, all of the bad stuff. Leave it in the comment section down below. I'm going to go ahead and put my Lawson score up on the screen right now. Ding! Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you